In the beginning there were 4 brothers, each of them left from West Hand, one an explorer at heart, the other a warrior, the next a craftsman, and finally the healer. In time these brothers founded their own families, and so the houses of ArchLand were born. Many traded with each other over the centuries, adopting culture, technology and traditions that each one thought viable. Eventually these 4 states would define themselves as House Rentriem, House Sintriem, House Nortriem, and finally House Gratriem. These 4 houses had a tumultuous history over thousands of years. Many times each house would declare war on each other for riches and personal gain of their leaders. However, the discovery of the Nether Realm and the powers they could harness from it changed everything. The knowledge gained in manipulation of energy is a closely guarded secret of the houses and appears as magic. The ArchLand Confederacy as a whole has made no attempt to dispel this belief and actively encourages it internally and externally. While the manipulation of netheric energy is not strictly magical, the properties of the Nether Realm go beyond what would be described as real space physics. The Great Sector Wars were a turning point for the Confederacy. Confronted on all sides by hostile powers, the 4 houses had no choice but to unite and strengthen the Confederacy. During the Great Sector Wars, a new house was born from those who survived battle and no longer bared loyalty to their home worlds, the House of Ultraem. To many this was only a way of centralizing power. However, the House of Ultraem made an unlikely ally with a rising power in the central section of the galaxy known as the Enderium Empire. This was quite advantageous during the war, allowing the 2 nations to condense their fronts and fight together, ending conflict in the northern expanse quickly. While ArchLand was challenged by multiple nations during the Great Sector Wars, it was able to patrol its borders and keep its territory intact, even lending support to neighboring nations that it deemed worthy of alliances. One of those nations, the Dwarven realm of Rivendell, as the 2 have fought together numerous times against the Brotherhood of Iron. After the war was over, House Ultraem rose to prominence, declaring the right of Ignatius, forcing the other 4 houses to swear allegiance to it. The leader of House Ultraem was proclaimed the Regi Solus. Although the official title is the King under 1,000 Sons, many in this line of succession have had a hard time imposing their will on the other 4 houses, and House Ultraem has turned into more of a diplomatic institution, with little power inside the ArchLand Confederacy's borders but allowed to make dealings with any other nations in the galaxy. Due to the feudal nature of the Confederacy, centralized control is very rare. However, there is a widespread general culture embraced by the population of the nation. Many governments lack the proper centralization to impose a standard across many worlds. However, what could be referred to as a formal government structure would be a consul from the families either elected or appointed by various members of the Order of Arms, Order of Strength, Order of Leadership, Order of Trade and Wealth, and the Order of Fate, with an elector king chosen from its members. Mysticism and spirituality are commonplace in society. The religious order of the Confederacy is one of the only centralized institutions and is unquestionable in the worship of ancestors and their deeds. Many in other nations view the enforcement of these harsh religious ideals as dogmatic and backwards. However, the Enderium Empire and its government took great interest in its structure and enforcement of religion, applying it to their personal beliefs and creating a branch in their government called the Inquisition. The Enderium Empire also returned the favor of the establishment of the Inquisition by granting ArchLand mages with technology that enhanced their already present magical abilities. Because of the age of the Confederacy, much of the technology and magic wielded by the nation is simply beyond the understanding of many of its institutions and is classified as archaeotech. Much of the weapons, the technology that exists is merely maintained, and knowledge of magic handed down. Very little innovation occurs. Instead, the ancient foundations of society are worshipped and revered as relics. The forces of the ArchLand Confederacy remain a mystery to many on the outside. While House Ultra-M has tried to catalogue the total force of the military might of the Confederacy, the task was deemed near impossible. The ground forces of the ArchLand Confederacy consist of different compositions, but there seems to be three types of soldiers generally across the Confederacy. The first of these being the cuirassiers, dedicated warriors who spend their lives training to die in battle or win glory, trained in traditions passed down for hundreds of years, clad in ornate gold-plated armor with advanced weaponry. There also exists the auxiliar as the main force, with the closest equivalent being an infantry force of an army, as they operate on a principle of massed attack. However, valued above even the cuirassiers are the mages of ArchLand. Trained on the ancestral homeworld itself, the mages learn to channel the energy of the nether realm, though their bodies, to perform actions that could be either viewed as miracles or strategic calamities, depending on which side of a battle the observer is on. ArchLand also supports the gunnery corps, which draws on energy from the nether realm to power weapons of immense destructive power. ArchLand mages are usually allowed a great deal of freedom and independence in their pursuit of an enemy, and have been known to augment their abilities with technology from other nations. However, once they do, they are no longer considered pure and regarded as more rogue agents, but are still required to partake in any battles necessary to their houses. The ArchLand Confederacy also operates a decentralized navy. However, these ships are incredibly ancient, dating back to thousands of years before the Great Sector Wars. Although ancient, these ships are of immense size and unfathomable power, built by ancient shipwrights spread throughout the old worlds, originating on West Hand. While it is rare for many outsiders to understand the construction of such vessels, it is even harder to construct these ships of ancient design, as many of the original facilities to build and maintain these craft have been lost to time, and while some nations such as the Enderium Empire have matched the ArchLand ships' capabilities in weapons, they still remain far behind in shielding, armor plating, and power output. Many old structures persist throughout the Confederacy, such as ancient temples and fortresses, as well as unknown spells and technology, but not all in the ArchLand Confederacy is beyond rediscovery. Recently, a new leader of faith has taken the throne. Ancient spells have been recovered with archaeotech, long thought lost, and old scriptures tell of a new golden age to come for the Confederacy.